Good morning, everyone. My name is Asutosh Kumar, and on behalf of National Board for Quality Promotion, Quality Council of India, I would like to welcome you all to our today's session on identifying the cost-based opportunity areas for performance improvement. An organization's cost towards non-conformance can be reduced by identifying the different areas in which there are potential wastes, failures, and additional costs which are either not adding any values or for which customers doesn't want to pay. Most important aspect is to identify opportunity areas for improvement in the language of monies, as any improvement is supported by management if the language spoken is the language of money, language of percentage, which is more spoken at the operational and middle management level, does not motivate management and also does not get recognized post improvement. Learning of the language of money also help individuals to learn a critical management skills which takes decision basis measurement, that is money. Through this program, our attempt is to provide you an understanding how to identify what are the visible cost and the hidden cost, and to identify the cost-based opportunities areas for our improvement productivity, efficiency, customer satisfaction, etc. The participants may please mention their queries for the speaker on the question box anytime during the program. We will take questions from the participants toward the end of our sessions. We would like to welcome our speakers for the today's session, Mr. Arun Malik. Mr. Arun Malik has 45-year experience in manufacturing, automobile, office automation, Japanese education, telecom services, pharmaceutical, and consultancies. At present, he is Executive Director, India Hub for Telecommunication International Association, USA standards body with more than 13,000 standards. He is a disciple of Professor Kando, Professor Ishikawa, and has worked with the C.K. Prahlad, Sumantro Ghoshal, and Stephen Covey. All three were renowned international management consultants. He has expertise in business management, training and development, quality systems, performance enhancement, change management, and business transformation. He is also black belt in Six Sigma from Motorola Universities. We welcome you, sir. Over to you. Start with the session, please.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Welcome aboard, everybody. It's really a pleasure for me to communicate with you. Unfortunately, due to COVID situation, I'm not able to see each one of you. I'm sure you will have access and may be able to see me. I assure you, by the end of this program, you will have one or two critical takeaways which will help you to grow further in your career. Because total quality management, while people feel it's more critical for success of the organization, but to my mind, initially it helps in success of the individuals who practice it. My first exposure, and I would again request, please raise as many thoughts, as many opinions, as many queries, and as many questions as you desire to. The only thing is we'll be able to answer it only at the end of the session. Even if I hope I am audible and you are able to grasp the subject which I will share with you. My first exposure to cost of quality was in 1986 when I was taken by Professor Ichikawa to go to Japan and learn quality. He was here in India and I took him around. And in India, he went across various organizations, about 10 to 12. And then he went back and sent me an invite on Japanese government scholarship where I studied total quality management. And the first thing, again I followed up, after coming back from there, I was supposed to work on a project for the benefit of the country as well as for the benefit of the company which had sent me across, which was a automobile organization. I participated and initiated a process of quality in the country, working with Professor Rudappa and working with my senior bosses in the company I was working for. And we supported a forum called QCFI, Quality Circle Forum of India, which today has got about 40,000 members. And when a convention happens, the first convention had only 30 members. I again went back to Japan in 1991, where I had the opportunity to meet with Professor Juran Ishikawa, as well as Demings. And Juran made a presentation. I was also, of course, one of the presenters for the job which I had done in India. And Juran made a presentation in which he said, proof of the need. That means whenever you want to act upon something, you got to have a proof of the need. And proof of the need, what he shared there was cost of quality. And even though the discussion of cost of quality began somewhere in 1951 after the Second World War, where need to improve radically was very high, and Demings and Juran both were Americans which went to Japan to help them. But it really started propagating somewhere in 1960s and later on somewhere in 90s, because where people felt that while operator level people used to feel there is a need to improve, the management felt the need to improve is not so high, especially outside Japan. That means in US, in Europe, and in India also. When the concept of cost of quality got initiated, then the interest rose and people at management level started begin participating. And the reason for same was while at operator level or middle management level, people were happy discussing percentages, whereas the management only, as you know now, also understand the language of money. But before we get deeper into this, let me share with you my perspective of learning. So this is a broad perspective of learning process. I make sure to share this at the beginning of any session. Whenever we learn anything, suppose we learned mathematics in our school. In primary classes, we were not aware how to do multiplication, how to do division, minus, subtraction, and addition. So we were step one, unconscious, non-aware, incompetent. Then came a stage two when the teacher started telling us how do we do plus, minus, multiplication, division. We were aware and we were conscious, but still incompetent. And then teacher used to regularly make us practice that. In our time, the mother would listen to basic mathematics principle before we went to sleep. So I'm sure this must be same thing using computers by now. And this we started doing certain exercises in class 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and then in engineering. That came the stage of internalization. So we were consciously competent of this. And then finally, when we started working, I mean, we never had to think about what is the formula. We were unconsciously competent. The same is the learning cycle for total quality management or cost of quality. You will go through, I'm sure maybe you are already at internalization stage, consciously competent, or maybe you are at unconsciously competent stage. Whatever may be your stage, important thing is when you reach the stage of unconscious competence, that's the stage where you are actually working as a leader. And especially cost of quality and total quality management are leadership traits. Well, I mean, how cost is based decisions are taken at leadership level depends upon what level you are. If you are taking a decision at technology level, then you are doing something at industry level. If you are taking a decision for what kind of pollution handling system should be used, then you are at plant level. Maybe if you are taking a decision of what kind of calibration equipment or equipment should be bought, then you are handling it at a shop level. But at any level, the higher the level of yours in the organization, the higher would be the challenges, and the more difficult would be the decision which you will be making, and you'll be definitely getting paid for that. But to be there at that level and become a leader, you have to attain the stage of unconscious competence. I don't think so. You'll find your boss, you know, doing a cause and effect or drawing a Pareto chart or calculating cost of quality in front of you. because he or she has attained the stage of unconscious competence. So my suggestion and recommendation to each one of you is that while we will try to leave you somewhere at the beginning of conscious internalization, and if you work with us subsequently, work with the team subsequently, you may definitely move to unconscious competence, and which is critical for you to grow. Not only grow, there's another interesting thing in the quality persons is that they are not confined to an industry. And I'm restating this on behalf of my experience and also what I've seen in the industry. All quality professionals, they started from manufacturing and automobile. They moved on to manufacturing in FMCG goods. They moved on to, as the industry grew,
Malik
the
sir,
industry.
I would like to intervene you, sir. Sorry for the sir,
Yeah.
I would like to request you to come closer to the mic because people are unable to hear you properly.
Okay.
Little
Do I need
closer to
to?
the mic. Yeah.
So, is it better now? Better now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Shruti. Thanks for
Okay.
pointing out. Now, the question is the quality revolution which began from automobile industry went up to it moved on to FFCG industry. From FFCG industry it went to BPOs. From BPO it went to software industry. From software to telecom, and from telecom to healthcare, and in between it also went to banking industry. But the people who got picked up were those who were consciously competent in the manufacturing industry, because the other industries had always preferred to pick up those who knew was the concept, and they were not confined to a particular industry. They were able to quickly move from one industry to another industry. So your industry doesn't become a limitation if you have adopted the journey of quality or if you have internalized. And so both kind of opportunities are there for you to grow higher as a leader and also grow, shift from one industry to another industry and literally grow phenomenally well. At one point, I did a study and found that most of the BPOs and most of the telecom industry heads had moved in from other industry, either from banking or from manufacturing, but they were all quality experts. At one point in life, they had done either master black belt or black belt, or they had done TPM or similar other concepts. So, please, my request is don't limit your thinking to your product or your segment. I mean, your growth becomes phenomenal. You would have heard about the case of Infosys director finance becoming director HRD, and he's a director. He set up his own HRD consultancy, and most of the time he's working on total quality management projects. So you become universal. That's a request, and that's what attracted me towards total quality management. Now, if you look at the content of this product presentation, we'll begin with cost of quality, history of cost of quality. What is cost of quality? It's gone through certain changes over a period of time. And the TQM, which is a pillar to support cost of quality, effect of identifying cost of quality, benefits of cost of quality, steps in implementing quality cost. Okay, there's a case study which I don't think so I'll be able to share the entire case study, which is from a mobile organization, BG Sol, investing in prevention cost, today's approach in cost of quality and conclusion. So earlier perspective, which was there, which at Duran's time or Deming's time, the quality cost means the cost of finding and corrective defective work. It could be a piston, it could be a paper, it could be an invoice, it could be a component of an automobile, it could be a part of a tire when a tire being produced, it could be a part of a software. So it is not the finished product. In the interim stage also, from supply to delivery, whatever failure happens and whatever cost is spent, so the cost of finding and corrective defective work used to be cost of quality. This was a history, as I shared with you. Juran, Professor Juran, I would call him as a quality, not only quality guru but management guru, because he's the one who said management has three parts: planning, control, and improvement. It could be quality management, it could be financial management, it could be HR people management, it could be sales management, it could be service management. And specifically focused on the perspective of quality cost, because whenever the reason you do improvement is you find out an opportunity area, there is a defect, and then you try to remove that defect. Or also you do improvement because your customer wants something better in terms of measures of quality, cost, delivery, or accuracy, or reliability. Similarly, your employees may want something better. For again, courtesy, concern, services, compensation. So you may have to initiate a project. Figgenbaum, who later on took it up further, he converted the shape into a very scientific presentation, which I'll explain to you. And the American Quality Institute (ASQ) formed a committee. A national committee was formed by ASQ in the US in 1961 to focus on cost of quality. So, quality, normally the people think the cost of quality is the price for making a quality product. That's a misnomer. It's cost of not creating a quality product. I mean, when you do not create a quality product, you have to first find out which one is not quality product. Then you have to rework on that product. So that cost is the cost of poor quality or the cost of quality. So please notice this very carefully, because most times people in general say cost of quality means price to make a quality product. No, the cost which is borne in case the product or the component or the process or the service is not meeting the quality requirement, which means quality, cost, delivery, accuracy, or any other expected requirement of the customer. So the earlier paradigm was the reworking on a manufactured product or a service, the retesting or assembly, rebuilding of a tool, the correction of a bank statement, loan application, replacement of a food order. You go to a restaurant, you don't find tea to be meeting your requirement. You tell them this has got excess sugar, I don't need sugar. That's also cost of quality as far as the customer is concerned, as far as the organization is concerned. Sorry. Now, this was further divided into two parts: cost of conformance and cost of non-conformance. So this is where it becomes very interesting, because one way, when you have a defect arising in the process or in the finished good or the product or the service, one way is to repair that, rework on that, and give it to the next process or give it to the customer. Second way is to find out what needs to be done to prevent such failures, so that the reworking is not required in future. And that cost is called the cost of conformance or cost of prevention. So cost of conformance is the cost incurred in ensuring that things are done right the first time. It's not the cost of process. It's because you have thought of a solution which you are implementing to prevent failures. So this is the cost which produces products and services right the first time. So now after you have produced the product, you will inspect the product if required, depends upon the process. So cost of conformance is cost of prevention and appraisal cost. Appraisal means inspection cost. And same time, cost of non-conformance is incurred as a result of not doing things right the first time. That means the product or the service produced or the output produced in the organization or outside the organization doesn't meet the next process requirement or the customer's requirement. Such costs are known as costs of non-conformance. Now, there are two parts in this. I will show this again with the help of picture. internal and external costs. Again, with the help of picture, I will show you. Cost of conformance has got prevention cost and it's got appraisal cost. Prevention means you have come to know that there is something going on wrong in the process because of which the output is not meeting the specifications or the requirement of the next customer or the eventual customer. So you have decided to spend money and prevent failures. That's called the cost of prevention. And cost of appraisal is the cost of assessment whether whatever process or output or product or service which you have produced, does it meet the next customer requirement or not. Similarly, cost of non-conformance has got two parts: internal failures and external failures cost. I am not able to raise questions. Otherwise, I would have definitely liked to ask you. But please do write on your this thing. What is the meaning of external failure and internal failure? A failure is a failure. Why should we differentiate between internal and external? I mean, I would be happy if some of you can answer this question. Some of you can answer this question and put it on the chat, because while this measurement of cost looks very simple, it's not that simple, because impacts of it and the effort required is different. So that's a question raised from my end to all of you. I mean, whoever can make an attempt, I'll be happy to know, because that will tell me also what is your as-is knowledge status. It's for me to know so that I can strategize my talk accordingly, and request coordinator to please send them see these answers across to me. So, I mean, at the same time, you can raise questions or queries or thoughts also. So, coming back to now, I'm going to gradually explain to you all of them. Again, prevention costs are associated with design, implementation, maintenance, and planning prior to actual operation. Now, this is very interesting. You're designing the process, you're designing the product, and the way you also design how this process will be implemented. So you're designing product, process, and the implementation plan, the maintenance plan, and planning. There are certain things beyond that. Now consider, for instance, that you are planning to produce a rubber product. Before the rubber product is put into the heating chamber or in the press, heating press, and if there are die changes required, the particular shape and another shape would be is required to be produced. Now, changing over from one die to another die, if the next die is cold, then you will have to either produce defective products initially, or you will have to give heating time at the press. So it's better to plan and have a pre-warmer. That means there is a die rack which is heated 1 hour before or 2 hours before the it is to be inserted in the press, and the regular production of uh, begins to happen. So if you do that, then you're saving those 2 hours, you're saving those failures which may happen if it's a cold die. So I've given you one example, but all, I mean, an extreme example I'll give you. When I used to be HR head as well as quality head for a pharma company, I was on the same thought. Which has become a common norm now. When we are hiring students from IIT, we will hire them 6 months before, so that their peak production happens within 2 months of joining, not within 1 year of joining. That means they were prepared on to what to deliver. They were invited to plant. They were invited to R&D setup to experience what we are doing. They were given inputs on weekends by our management staff. So cost is not only limited to, cost is everywhere. Training is a cost. Developing a person in the organization to be capable of doing peak performance So all definitions need to be created in each and every part of the organization for the all processes, manpower processes, financial processes, manufacturing processes. All processes have to be seen as a cost. And you see, it's humongous. Most of the people, because whatever is known to us is cost, or whatever is accounted for is far lesser than what actually costs the organization to manage it. I mean, a manpower, whether he produces a patent after 1 year or he produces a patent after 2 months, a patentable product or a patent or a research paper is a huge difference. 10 months of wages is huge. It's cost. So I mean, while it looks very simple, I think your creativity, your innovative thinking, your paradigm shift, your perspective goes through a huge challenge. And the more you are able to find preventive or ways, the more you acquire leadership traits, then the more you get recognized in the organization and your likelihood of growth in the organization, within or outside the organization, becomes more. I mean, it's very fascinating. It's very interesting. When I came back from Japan, the first challenge which I did was that why should the manufacturing of a product takes about 70 minutes? And when I discussed with technical director and manufacturing, they said there's a way it has been going on for the last about 15 years of service which I have. Eventually, we were able to find a solution. We were able to reduce from about 65 minutes to 40 minutes because nothing happened beyond that. So, I mean, so those paradigm shifts, those new perspectives, those creativity, innovative thought play a very critical role in this. And the in this the emphasis in prevention of defects at that time. Today the things have changed. Probability of producing right items. I will explain this. I mean, again, I have a question that if you can answer me the question that how many percentage of time a person should spend in preventive thinking, and how many percentage of time, yeah, somebody has answered the question when the product fails at the customer end, internal failures when the defect detected when the product is in the process. Excellent, sir. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I would again request you to please answer what is the benefit of catching it internally and what is the benefit of catching it externally? I mean, is there a benefit of finding a failure in-house, and what is the loss when the product fails at the outside world? But thank you for your participation. So, I'll explain this with the help of a next slide. I mean, so the preventive action are market research. I'm sure I know if you're young, you may not remember when Car Centro was launched. About 100 cars were given free of cost to companies, and the only promise was that whenever somebody drove, a person will sit along with him, and in the end, after his drive, he will give a feedback on what was his experience. So market research, identify failures, which has become a common thing now. Quality planning, creating the entire quality plan, which is a part of ISO 9000 standard by now. New product reviews, tolerance analysis, field trials, cost of research and development, cost of training, quality audits, prevention of defects. So all these are preventive. Well, my only request is most of people confine them to only these, which is I would request, please don't do that. Uh, uh, please do that. Don't do that. Depending upon the industry or the company which you are working on, and depending upon the context of the organization, the cost of prevention or the preventive initiative may be different. I will share you with the help of examples subsequently. So you look at this. This is a very interesting. Uh, yeah, Mr. Raghav Velu, you rightly. Sorry if I'm misspelling your name. I mean, Mr. Raghav, you answered very rightly. Warranty cost, rejection cost, segregation cost, and customer and transportation and documentation cost. These are the costs. Excellent. Thank you for answering. I'll build on this further, but you are absolutely correct, sir. Now, this is very critical. for a human being, he spends the time in 4 quadrants. Starting from the left hand, first quadrant is urgent and important. Second quadrant is important but not urgent. Third quadrant is not important but urgent. And the fourth quadrant is not important and not urgent. Now, second quadrant is important and not urgent. Now, in normal life, making an airline booking or making a train booking or helping your child in his studies is important but not urgent. But there comes a stage where it becomes urgent and important. Arun Malik is willing to pay an amount to get admission of his child or his daughter or son in medical or in on engineering or any other sphere. Now, see, when it's important and not urgent, so this is the psyche of people. They submit their returns, they submit their bills at the last end when it becomes urgent and not, and it's important but it's become urgent. The cost which is incurred when it's important and not urgent, both in terms of health of a person, because when you go to urgent and important, the stress carried is phenomenally higher. The stress is far lesser when it was not urgent and important. It's a humongous waste. Not only waste in terms of company's money, your own time, your health, because some of the Japanese companies do monitor the health bill of individuals, and from there they go and check up where is he spending time. And the not urgent and important is planning, and urgent and important is repair work, is patchwork, is rework. It's a waste. May I ask somebody again? I would not wait for the answer. Request, please tell me how much of time should be spent in not urgent and important, and how much of time should be spent in urgent and important. I'll wait for this feedback to come. I'll come back to this slide and then maybe share with you. At the same time, let me tell you what is not urgent and not important should be less than 5%, and what is urgent and not important, again, it may be about 5 to 10%, and the balance should be on the top too. The reason people are there you see, I've seen in my life career, a lot of people who are brought from urgent and important to important and not urgent are in so much of action addiction mode that they'll request for a demotion and go back to field rather than accept the promotion and work in head office, because they find there's not much action, there's not much, uh, day-to-day activity. In urgent case, you are able to find out action to response within 2 to 4 hours. In case of not urgent and important, it takes months, sometimes years. Like, top person of the organization will not take important decisions which are less than a year. That's how thought process is. So this actually is a thinking change to move from breakdown to preventive. The automobile industry has moved from breakdown to preventive to predictive. So it's gone far above. That's why we are able to produce maybe 100 part per million also. Which is Six Sigma. Airline industry, telecom industry, there are healthcare industry is also trying to move towards that, but they have not reached. Most of the organizations are somewhere around 64,000 defects per million, which is somewhere around 3 sigma, etc. I am not sharing an accurate figure, but that's how it is. Now, is somebody given an answer? Okay, let me tell you. In a normal organization, what happens is 10% on important and non-urgent, and about 70% on important and urgent. Whereas they have to shift to 50% on prevention, that means important and not urgent, and 30% on urgent and important, and balance on the bottom two quadrants. If this shift doesn't happen, I have seen very top officials suffering from high stress, high blood pressure, and I mean, I remember one of the top vice president of a company walked into a glass. I mean, and he was totally full of blood because he didn't realize there was a glass in front. And that's the condition of person who only works in important and urgent. He's full of stress because every time he's thinking about what to do. So prevention is not only important from reducing the cost of producing a product or a service or a working on a process. Prevention is also important from your own lifestyle, from your own fitness point of view. A lot of people during this COVID have been very uncomfortable because they are used to urgent and important. And this COVID, to my mind, was the right time or is the right time to work on preventive actions for your own fitment, for your own intellectual growth, maybe for your own spiritual growth. Write down certain articles which will benefit the society. But these are all preventive actions. Every week, there is a, yeah, Mr. Sandhur has said more than 90 and less than 10. My only question is if it is more than 90 on preventive, on important and not urgent, excellent, sir. My compliments to you. But if it's more than 90 for urgent and important, then I'm sorry, sir, you will have to change. So which is which one? Please, please. Somebody is also said appraisal cost is to be multiplied by 1. Well, not so clear about this return. Uh, please help me understand it. And Sandur, this is a good answer. Manoj, good participation. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Now, as per Einstein, intellectuals solve problems and geniuses prevent them. I've seen this happening, I mean, in many organizations. I've seen it happening in huge part of my career that, I mean, people are only looking at what has gone wrong. I call them as tail end managers. When you have a histogram, there are few people who will only look at what is on the plus side in the table land and what is on negative side of the tail end. Whereas the normal person, a genius will look at what is the center of the parabola, plus minus limits, and try to bring in tail end to that. They don't worry too much about tail end. They worry about the variation which is happening in the center and improvise it so that they can reduce cost further and get better price from the customer. So that's the difference which I would like to request you to consider. Okay, appraisal costs are spent to detect defects. It is cost expenditure on inspection and testing. Is the cost of checking, is the cost of, is the second cost. If planning cost is maximum, the second cost is appraisal cost or inspection cost. But to my mind, today with low cost automation happening, appraisal cost also or inspection cost should be brought to as close to zero. When I'm saying zero, you may say zero is not possible. I say zero as an intent. That means things are in software organization in automobile, in banking organization, they call certain processes as untouched processes. That means nobody touches the product. I mean, when I say or in the initiation stage, or in the process stage, or in the finished goods stage, the product gets installed. The software is downloaded on the customer's laptop or in the customer system itself. And that's what people are working towards, to make appraisal cost also zero. Then comes what are the appraisal costs, inspection, in process and final inspection, product process or service audits. I mean, process audits, maintaining accuracy of testing equipment, that means calibration, etc. Non-destructive tests like, X-rays, radiography, probes, etc. So these are all appraisal costs. Okay. Then comes internal failure costs. Now, here I would like to clarify, these are failures which happen in the organization before the product or service is shipped to the customer or is provided to the customer. These are costs that would disappear if no defect is found in the product before dispatching. Now, here I would like to give some examples and then further. All costs which are rework, scrap, defective, waste, re-inspection, retest, modifying manufacturing or service process to correct deficiency. That means all costs which are changing our processes. That means moving to preventive. These are all internal failure costs. But the most interesting thing now, which people are not or beginning to work upon, is that the context of the organization has to be seen, and before taking a decision, is this a cost of conformance or cost of non-conformance? That's very interesting. Look, suppose you are manufacturing a product. Now, the product or the service manufactured in that particular stage is defective. That means the capacity of that particular equipment has been misutilized, or the ingredients and also the material or the consumables have gone waste. Now you will remain up to consumables and material costs if the capacity in the organization is more than customer demand. If the customer demand is more than the capacity available, then the entire you have not been able to produce X products and give it to market, then the entire profitability becomes the cost of non-conformance. I hope you have understood. You've got to be very smart, because suppose I'm supposed to make 20 chips through a process steps, and the chips are so much in demand that I will lose market share. I will not be able to recover that 20 chip sales. Then the entire cost of 20 chips is cost of non-conformance. If the demand is lesser than what I am manufacturing, then that only the material cost, only the consumable cost or depreciation cost of the equipment which is used to manufacture chips, and also the manpower cost would be cost of non-conformance. So it actually helps you to be much more smarter while deciding, because when you will make this presentation, some of you may be top management, when you make this presentation, the top management would be happy to know, because they want to know the numbers in terms of rupees or dollars or pounds or Japanese yens. They cannot understand percentages, but they would like also to go deeper and find out, is it only the consumable cost? Is it only the manpower cost, or does it also include what you would have produced and sold? So as you added the percentages of the profit which the company would have made. So it's a very intensive, deep thinking which goes in deciding whether what should be taken as a cost of non-conformance and what should not be taken. For the next line, less production due to supplier material and own material, productivity and efficiency loss due to lower motivation. Even if there was there's a person who was ill-treated, on a previous day, so was refused to go on a holiday, this lower level of motivation will also, lead to efficiency loss or productivity loss. It becomes very interesting to calculate cost of failure costs, especially internal failure. External failure. Now, you see what happens. This is a very interesting. You find here at step one, there's a testing done, analysis done, fixing is done. It goes back to step one. Again, testing is done. The step two, again, testing, analysis, and fixing is done. The lower half of this slide gives you the secondary factory, the second factory. I mean, see the upper house, how you see the step one should have been taken, right product, test, pass it on to step two. but there is additional manpower deployed. This manpower is deployed to run that second factory, which is called as hidden factory. And it so happens that there are a lot of times I've seen presentations where people are trying to improve upon performance of hidden factory. My question is always to them, why should a company have a hidden factory? I mean, a hidden factory is required because the initial process which is there in the main factory is somewhere failing. So work upon a project to improve upon the main factory, not on the hidden factory. There used to be interesting incidents. Become an observer. I mean, in Bhopal airport, I remember for an Indian Airlines flight, there will be 5 people who will take a staircase. One person will stand on the top of the staircase. 2 person will push it. 2 person will guide the pusher, which were not required at all. It was eventually I realized they replaced it with the help of a mini tractor, which will actually pull the this staircase to the airport. Now there are better systems. You can straight away go into the airport. Staircase is not required at all. So it's a huge waste. The hidden organization, it's a huge waste. And somewhere when you do quality cost or quality calculation, your observation power to find out which is the main factory and which is a hidden factory is very important. In a mobile unit, I found there are people who are receiving the calls and they were forwarding it to another person who was solving the call. I mean, I said, why don't you upgrade the skills of this person who's receiving the call to solve it? Why have this hidden factory until super specialization is required? So have only 2 layers, not 3 layers. So there is zone of comfort in having a hidden factory, and that's something which needs to be challenged. Then comes external failures. These are costs incurred after product is dispatched to the customer. I mean, the cost also would disappear if there are no deficiencies. Again, my friend has already mentioned, rightly mentioned, warranty charges, complaint adjustment, return material, recalling, allowances, referral, employees, attrition because of frustration. But the only challenge or the main difference between okay, somebody has answered. Sorry, I'm not able to see his name. But right answer, internal failures, Arun sir. What was I asking? Weightage of multiplication factor for all 4 calls. It's true that prevention is to be 0.5, appraisal with 1, internal failure to be 2, while external failure cost to be multiplied by 4. It's right. You have to do your own estimation depending upon the kind of organization, but your weightage is absolutely correct, sir. You're absolutely, congratulations. Good job, sir. My only, again, I would request it will also depend upon the organization. Now, there is another definition that quality is known by absence, not by presence. You go to a restaurant, everything was fine, the food was good, but when you gave your credit card for deducting the money, the person came back after about 20 minutes. You start thinking there is something wrong. Maybe he's copied my credit card. Maybe he's doing some manipulation and I'll have to suffer for it. So when your friend meets you next day, your friend will say, how's your experience in the restaurant? You will not talk about good food. You will only talk about what was upset. That means the person took about 30 minutes to bring my card. I am concerned. So what you've done, you put suspicion in the other's mind. So there is a data or statistical study which has been done. A dissatisfied person will tell 10 others, whereas a happy person will tell only 4 others. So now in internal failures, this transmission or communication doesn't happen. In external failures, this happens. So that means when you lose one customer, you actually lose an opportunity to sell to 10 others. So depending upon your organization, the kind of referral is there in your organization. And when there is a good referral, the cost of sales becomes much lesser. When there is a poor referral, and rather he is telling, I mean, I'm at pain after going to this restaurant, or I'm at pain after using this product, you're actually losing an opportunity to sell to 10 others. And that cost is phenomenally high. So that's where, while internal failure is less, external failure is far high. I mean, the opportunity loss, suppose you lost 40 customers have complained, that means the ability to sell to 400 or whatever you may estimate will be definitely much more than internal failure has been lost. That means external failure, and also management time is phenomenally high. I mean, sometimes there are customers, you have to position the MD of the company has to go and meet the customer in person and convince him to continue to use the service or buy another service. So the and the MD's time, I mean, look at only his compensation or the value add which he's supposed to make a decision for the next 2 years, rather than he's making a decision for the next 1 day or 2 day of getting a buy-in or retaining the customer. I remember there was an error done in an organization. A captain was addressed in a bill. He was addressed as a captain, but actually he was the group captain. So he was not managing 500 people like a captain. He was managing more than 50,000 people. A small mistake, huge loss to the organization in terms of service. So when the failures are externally identified, the cost is very, very high. I mean, either you have to give it to him in free of cost as substitute, or you have to give a huge percentage discount, or you have to withdraw the material, or you have to scrap the material at the site. Sometimes the transportation cost to bring it back is so high that you ask him to dispose it. And in today's time where the customer doesn't want to pollute the environment, he still forces you to take back the material. And what cost it do? So because you have to disposing of that material becomes very difficult. It's a material which was designed about 4 years back when that pollution norm was not there. But today you cannot dispose that material, and that becomes a huge headache to the organization. So external failure, my friends, is a humongous waste. I mean, it's actually. I mean, sometimes it can bring down the organization. I mean, I remember there was an automobile company who was selling tires to US, and the insurance cost of one failure was so much that the company was really finding it difficult to survive, because they had not taken the preventive thinking that how much it may cost if we sell this product and product sells in US. So it fails in US. So today, international business becoming very strong, I think external failure and the pollution norms also becoming very strong. External failure and being sensitive to external failure is very critical. So in brief, so again coming back to cost of conformance as prevention, appraisal, cost of non-conformance, internal failure, external failure. So, I mean, this is a very old slide. Most of you would have seen it. Normally, we see scrap, warranty, rework, but what is the engineering time? The time which you spend in designing a product has gone waste if there is a defect being produced. Management time for external failures or discussing internal failures, in reviewing internal failures, in convincing people to stay back if he has decided to leave. Shop and field downtime, increase inventory, decrease capacity, customer dissatisfaction, lost sales, lost customer, you know, lost customer. So these are all hidden, hidden wealth which one needs to identify. Well, my friend has again raised this. What I was asking was weightage or multiplication factor for all such four costs. Is it true that prevention is to be zero point 0.5, appraisal with zero point 0.1, internal failure to be multiplied with 2, external failure cost to be multiplied by 4? Sir, maybe right, but I would again say this will depend upon the organization, and this will also depend upon the context in which at that point organization is working. I mean, but at the outside, these factors, the flow least at prevention, slightly higher at appraisal, higher again higher at multiple in internal, and again higher at 4. But will it be 0.5, 1, 2, or 4? I am not able to give a clear yes or no. I would rather look at a specific industry and the situation of the industry and comment upon that. I'm sorry, I can't give you a very clear answer, but the trend seems to be right. That I agree with you. Okay, well, thank you, sir. Impact of 2KM on cost. TKM is primarily aimed to improve the quality of the product, process, higher customer satisfaction. Now, I want to discuss a case here for Xerox Corporation. Now, this was very interesting. Xerox Corporation, I'm talking about 1980, 81 era, or 82 beyond that, not now. They did a study and compare within Xerox Group itself, because Xerox had copier and copier were and also land printers were being manufactured in India, in US, in Europe, and in Japan also. When they compared two locations, one location was able to rotate money 6 times in a year, another location was able to rotate money twice in a year. That means if you invested 1 rupee and if your profits are 25 paise, then at the end of the year, the company, the plant which was able to rotate twice had made converted 1 rupee to 1 rupee 50 paisa. Whereas the company which was able to rotate the same money 6 times converted that to 2 rupees 50 paisa. Right? So see the difference. This company which was able to convert to 1 to 1.5 and the company which was able to convert to 1.255. I mean, humongous difference. Now, this is what I was trying to point out. Of course, the company went through various projects and they were able to come back to about 4 instead of 1, four tons in a year rather than from 2 to 4, which itself was a significant jump. So they had to work on where rework is happening, where delay is happening, work on various projects to come to that level. The important thing is how do you smartly identify the measurement which will create passion? Because when you do cost of quality, it creates passion and commitment in the top management. So if you are able to smartly identify a measure and convince your top management, your job is half done. And most of the time I've seen at operation level, there's a lot of frustration. But ability to convince in absence of language and money becomes very difficult. And that's what I'm trying to suggest, sir. When TQM initiates, please find out the right measurement and the right value. And you have to be very careful and put it to the management. I mean, I would not be able to, I don't have time to go through the case study. But of course, this I can share with you. In terms of percentage of failures, 15% of the sales cost got reduced in, that plant. That means suppose they are selling 1,000 crores, that means 150 crores of additional profit to the bottom line because they identified the right opportunity. So the management was spending every week 2 hours to find out what else can we do to reduce the, I mean, where can we, increase on prevention to reduce on internal failure and to also to reduce on appraisals. So this is something very interesting. So when the strategies for elimination of failure cost, reduction in appraisal cost, and investment in preventive activities. That's how it is done. When you measure what you are speaking about, express in numbers, because I mean, you cannot manage when you cannot measure. I personally feel that God and measurements are only two things I believe on. God is there everywhere, but not available for commercial reasons, maybe for your good luck. But measurements or data have to be there to know accurately. If not accurately, when you make a statement of cost of non-conformance, I always say it's a guesstimate. It's not even an estimate. The accounting people should not say it as an estimate. I mean, you should say it's a guesstimate. Suppose it's not, I mean, it's not 15%, it may be 14% or 16%, but that's significant enough to focus on and improve it upon further. So, CEO's cost of quality can identify quality improvement candidates, success of projects. I mean, if there are 30 projects happening, which project is more successful in terms of financial benefits? It also motivates people who does this project. It also helps management to recognize them because money is the language of management. That's what Phil Crosby and Duran also said. I mean, if you see benefits of minimizing cost of quality, it decreases overall cost, defects, return goods, customer complaints, owner and management stress, decreases legal costs, cost of sales, but increases sales profit, capacity. Capacity is something, I mean, I've seen people deciding to invest into another plant and after doing cost of quality calculation and working on the project, they found that the existing capacity itself was 20% free. So, I mean, I've seen in many organizations, customer satisfaction, market share, competitive edge, employee satisfaction. These are all things. Employee satisfaction is equally critical. I mean, if there's no employee satisfaction, the cost of quality will not go lesser. So these are again, the cost of quality can be measured in the percentage of sales, profit, manufacturing cost, direct labor cost, the price of the unit of the product. There are various ways. I found percentage of sales is the most interesting. I mean, if your plant is running at 2 sigma, then 30 to 40% opportunity, 3 sigma, 20 to 30%, 4 sigma, 10 to 15%, 5 sigma, 10 to 15. Most organizations, especially in service industry, which is the one which is catching up now, that means the hospital industry, the hospital industry, the software industry, the telecom industry, and also food industry and manufacturing, chemical industry and manufacturing, because chemical or pharma industry have always been in the mindset of quality control. They were never in the mindset of quality assurance. That's why there are huge losses happening. Waste is very high. I mean, when I went to a pharma company, the first thing which I asked, this is waste. Said, don't worry, we will make sure that this, defect doesn't travel to the customer without realizing that their in terms of percentage of sales, the rework or the cost of poor quality was very high. 30% is not even the company's profit sometimes is lesser than 30%. So if they can 100% increase their profit if they work on cost of quality. Again, important thing is how smartly you identify and how smartly you implement the changes. So one of the companies where the philosophy which we normally adopt in working on cost of quality, benchmark with a similar organization. That means you compare your organization with a similar industry. Gemba visit, which is very important. Gemba visit, go to shop floor. I mean, a lot of people, I remember when we were working for Xerox Corporation, we had to travel to plant every Wednesday to do a plant review meeting. In the initial first 4 years, we were doing plant reviews sitting in head office. Only when the new chairman joined international chairman joined, MD, sorry, not chairman, he forced us. He said, plant review has to happen in plant and you have to walk in the plant before you start doing review, because you have to find out what is cost of quality. I mean, in all the organization where I've worked since then, I've made sure that the plant review happens not even in the conference room of the plant, but on the shop floor. You're standing there for 2 hours, where workers are even able to see, and they're also invited to share their pains or the company pains or the return. Discuss the objective of the study, collect whatever cost data is conveniently possible, and use this information to get management support. Make a proposal to management on what kind of changes are possible or required and what is this cost. Prepare a draft to define the cost of poor quality to the management. Finalize. The most important thing in this is definition. A lot of time definition of measurements are different among different functions. In a software company, the delivery of the box is the definition of the material function or the plant function. The installation is the definition of the service function. The 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 operation happening successfully is a definition of engineering function. So definitions are also different. I found in one organization there were 21 definitions for a particular activity. So having a single definition for each cost which we are trying to measure, in my language I call them as non-financial parameters. These are parameters which involve finance, but they are not measured in the accounting system of the organization most of the time. Collect and summarize data, present the cost result to management, and then work on the project. Either this sequence will depend on the kind of organization. Gaining approval, again, it's continued gaining approval.